Welcome back to Chow Time Pod. It's your host, Red. Got a video today from Wheat Waffles. The irony. Ugly woman boasting her ludicrous standards. We've seen this clip of this woman boasting her standards. And there's a reason why she boasts her standards. Why? Because there's so many goddamn simps out there. Stop it. Please like and subscribe down below. I really appreciate that. Let's get to that chow. It's chow time.
What makes a guy easily unattractive?
There's many. When he doesn't have a fresh haircut, when he doesn't have style, when he
So he only looks good right after the barber. That's the only time he ever looks good.
looks like a frog. Like, just come on.
What car do you want a guy to drive to pick you up?
I want a Mercedes.
A Toyota Corolla.
So she can do Uber.
Wow, she even laughs at the more gorgeous girl for wanting a more, like, reasonable car. This is crazy, guys. The ugliest one of the group is laughing at the lower standards of the prettier one in the group. This is how much we've propagated ugly, fat women.
Driving.
How much should a guy earn for you to date him?
500k, close to $1 million. If he doesn't, I'm not gonna say yes. Do you hear me?
How much should the guy pay for the engagement ring?
He needs to pay again. 500. He gets paid every year. 500. He saves that towards the ring. If he doesn't, he's gonna get a no, and it's gonna be embarrassing. You're welcome.
That's like, is this even an act? Is she really this boastful in real life, or is she doing it for the camera, or it's just delusion all over the place?
Wow, 500k for this. Society has a lot of explaining to do. How on earth have we went from couples that would raise their family in a nice, affordable house that they owned, where they're both in good shape, to obese, loud-mouthing women thinking they're entitled to a man who drives a Merc and makes 500k?
Jeez.
In Australia, where the video was filmed, the top 1% makes $350,000 a year. So she is looking for a rarer than top 1% man.
You know women don't look at salaries. They don't know how much men make. They don't even know how much they make compared to other people. They just think that men can make millions upon millions of dollars so easily.
And that's just money. Not including all the other ludicrous standards she probably has, like 6 foot, 6-pack abs, 6 inches, and the like. We're likely talking in the realm closer to 1 in 10,000.
Maybe more than that.
Put simply, if you want evidence that some women's standards have gone beyond ridiculous, then it's right here on the screen for you. Now granted, this would...
Get your passports, brothers. Get your passports of even the ugliest. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna... That probably was harsh. Even of one of the most unattractive overweight women can have this kind of standard in the West. Normal average men can't compete. We just can't. These women are not regular women.
Woman likely is just an outlier. But I can first guarantee women like this never existed 50 years ago.
This is true.
This is a completely new phenomenon. And second, if we were to estimate the standards women have on a bell curve, so the minimum value of a man they would date, 50 years ago, women's standards probably looked something like this.
Okay.
With most women being happy with 5s, some wanting a bit more and requiring a 7, then some even being okay with a 3 or 4. Let me make this clear. These days are gone. Today, the bell curve probably looks more like this. Men who are 3s and 4s, you're not even on the radar.
Richter scale anymore.
5s and 6s, You'd be lucky to find a partner, but will more likely be placed in the friend zone.
See, this is the part that I always look at, and then, when the red pill gurus and the red pill boys kind of dive into this, and they're just like, you just need to level up. Women here, because there's not enough men leveling up here. That's why you can't get women. No, women's standards have shifted so much that the average normal 5s and 6s can't even compete in the market now because they don't even want them anymore. That's a problem. So why would these men want to compete against these 9s and 10s? Because these women don't want them. So might as well go to somewhere they are wanted and appreciated in other countries.
7s, you'll get semi-decent results if you try. 8s and 9s, it's comfortable for you here and you'll almost certainly see good success. I personally don't know any woman that will be happy with a 5 nowadays. Now, we can see this gradual increase in women's standards has happened over the last few decades.
I mean, he's not wrong. I don't know anyone that would accept a 5, women-wise, because no one wants an average man. I have not seen or even heard of very many women that are okay with average men.
Because when we look at marriage statistics, in every Western country, their rates have plummeted.
Yep.
People aren't getting married anymore. So 50 years ago, it didn't matter if you were an average guy or even a little below average.
Hoeflation.
Because you'd still find a woman who found you attractive, eventually marrying her to start a family and have kids of your own. But today, people aren't, because women are indefinitely rejecting men. Now, just to clarify some confusion, you might have heard some men say marriage is down because men are waking up and realising marriage isn't a good deal. However, this mostly isn't true. Rather, it's far more likely that women's standards have gone up and men aren't hitting that benchmark set by women.
I could somewhat agree with this, but I actually agree more with Joker. I'll let him go through this and then I'll explain afterwards.
Just ask yourself, who does most of the rejecting in the dating market? Women. Who has tons of people flooding their inbox begging for chances to meet up? Women. Who has thousands of likes on their Tinder profile for just existing? Women. And who has 0 likes? Men. I think it's pretty clear who the undesired group of people are. Therefore, if marriage rates are going to increase, the only way is if women stop rejecting men who are on their level and their standards align with their actual value.
See, I actually disagree with this part. Why? Because women will lower their standards after they hit the wall. This is pretty apparent because all these 30-year-old, 35-year-olds, a lot of them just want a man to be with, a nice, beta provider. Majority of women, because what we see on the internet, yeah, they're more of the outliers, but when you look out there into the world, there's a lot more masculine women married to very docile men. That is pretty apparent out there because of how many Karens there are. So women still have to lower their standards. And remember, marriage is proposed by men. So women can want marriage all they want. And it doesn't matter if men aren't committing to it. And yes, I do agree that women's standards have gone up to where Hoeflation requires a higher level of man to reach those levels. But if those higher level of echelon men now have all of this option, they're not going to settle down. They're not going to be marrying. So it's still the men's initiative and prerogative to why marriage happens or not.
Getting the small number of men who have quit dating to come back and start trying again won't change anything, because the number of these men is so small.
I do agree that the number of MGTOWs and passport bros aren't majority of men.
Whereas the number of women who have in essence quit dating is magnitudes higher.
I somewhat agree with him, because the women that are like, you know what, I'd rather be alone, die alone, than be with someone. Those are the women that do help propagate why marriage is the way it is.
Here's what it comes down to. When women's standards are so high that no man is even close to having a chance, then that woman has in essence quit the dating market. It'd be no different than the guy with 80 IQ and no qualifications getting upset there's no position for him to work at Apple. If he's unemployed because he won't accept working at McDonald's, which is actually on his level, then we can safely say he's quit the job market because of his own refusal to lower his expectations. So, based on everything I've said so far, all of this begs the question: who's to blame? Who's to blame for the failure of the dating market and collapse of future marriages and families?
We know.
You might think, based on what I've said so far, the answer is women. Specifically, women's entitlement. Well, if you thought this, you are right, but also wrong. Because there is actually a step prior to this that produces women's entitlement.
That there is.
If there is a bunch of trash strewn in the city, you don't blame the trash. You blame the people that produce the trash. In this case, litterers. Likewise, when it comes to women's entitlement, you can't have this without this. And what always produces this is male desperation and thirst.
Fucking simps.
Get this in your head. All women's entitlement is a byproduct of male desperation and thirst. You can't have this without the other. Just like how if a kid is spoiled, we don't blame him or her for having a sense of entitlement. We blame the parents for producing a kid who is entitled.
This I 100% agree. It is the men out there that are weak, that are giving all these women the free attention, the free money, and all of this for nothing in return. So now these women think that is the norm. Now these women are entitled to think this is what I'm supposed to get because all these other men have given it to me. That's crazy. Fucking Sam's.
Similarly, when it comes to entitled women, the blame must reside with the producer, and the producer is always male desperation and thirst.
100% agree.
How does this actually play out in the real world though? Well, let me show you with this visual representation.
Let's do it.
Envision each of these sides, and just the sides, not what's in between, to be the population of men and women. Then, allow what's in between to be the territory that each man and woman is willing to push for when it comes to dating and relationships. So, in the women's territory, this might be comprised of, she doesn't want a man who will cheat on her, she wants a man that respects her, she wants one date per month. In other words, the basic and reasonable expectations that a woman would have for a relationship.
Okay.
Meanwhile, in the man's territory, he wants a woman who also won't cheat, regular intimacy, and the finances to be split fairly in the relationship. So, this is the territory that each man and woman is willing to ask for when they are seeking a relationship. Things look pretty fair and compatible here. But, now let's introduce our good old buddy, male thirst and desperation. And you'll see when this is introduced, a spanner jolts the cogs and the system collapses. Due to male desperation and thirst, it is in men's nature to want to seek more abundance than women. And the easiest way to increase your abundance as a man is to ask for less and offer more in a relationship. How does this happen? Easy. A man will sacrifice some of his territory to make his deal seem sweeter. E.g.,
This makes sense.
He no longer views it as a necessity to split the finances fairly in his relationship.
And this is Hoeflation explained with a chart.
So he sacrifices this territory in favour of a one-sided financial split. The territory he loses is equal to the territory gained by the woman he ends up with, because now she gets the privilege of him paying for everything so she doesn't have to pay a penny. Now, because other women notice this,
Yes.
it means
100%.
they are drawn to the man because he has a sweeter offer. In other words, he is offering more territory compared to what his rival men are offering. So in the short run, his sacrifice of territory should in theory pay off. However, this isn't the end. Because, for the same reason why this man's desperation and thirst led to him sacrificing for the sake of abundance, the other men are angry that their abundance has been lessened because of him. So now, in order to bring their abundance back to the way it was before, they too must sacrifice the same territory to stay competitive. This brings the playing field.
This is the free market system, capitalism at its finest. You know, like I don't hate on capitalism. I think it's wonderful, but this is how capitalism truly works here.
Back to even Stevens, so each man again has the same abundance as he did before. The only difference being, though, is that the collective bargaining power of the women has increased at the expense of the territory that the men gave them. And
it only took one, or a small group, to make this happen.
I'm sure you can guess what happens next. Male desperation and thirst comes back to fool men into thinking they can again get more by sacrificing more. So the cycle repeats a second time. Now, one man forgoes having regular intimacy in a relationship. This is how Jestamaxers or simps are born. They are fine with messaging women for 6 hours a day, being a texting buddy, and listening to a woman's problems, all for nothing. The cycle repeats again.
Disgusting.
And then it repeats again when some men sacrifice.
He put Destiny's face on it. You guys see this? It's Destiny.
The obligation for a woman to stay loyal in their relationship.
Oh yeah, now I see why he put Destiny on here.
Open relationships are born because they believe if they allow their woman to cheat, they'll be able to stay with her longer. As you can see, the cycle keeps repeating until men have no territory in a relationship. Now, obviously in real life, it won't play out exactly like this.
Nope.
Some men will refuse to compromise on their territory, because of course, not all men will absolve every ounce of their dignity just to increase their chances.
Damn right.
But if you are one of these men, you need to understand these simps and betas are undercutting you by offering women way more than they deserve.
It's alright, I still can lay down that pipe, so...
And that's what creates the entitlement.
It's true.
Since a lot of women are used to having a man that will kiss their feet. So when you come along offering a fair and equal relationship, she sees that as blasphemy.
It's true.
In conclusion, things are not looking good for the future of the dating market. Because as time goes on, more and more pressure will be placed on men to forego their territory in order to stay competitive.
Yep.
That's why I always recommend you men watching to act fast before things get any worse. You can't control the direction society is going, but you can control where you're going.
And that's out of the country, boys. Out of the country.
Anyway, if you liked this video, make sure you press the like button and leave any thoughts you have in the comments below on your way out.
Whew, that was some damn good chow. Simp-a-nomics. That's what I'm going to call this episode. Simp-a-nomics. You know, because this is literally the economics of how simps ruin the dating market. And this is why, like I said, we want to help simps. We want to get simps out of this. Yes, they're going to push back. And the ones that push back, let them flail. Let them keep on getting demolished by women. The ones that want to listen, the more people we can pull out of this sympatry, we can start changing what men can do collectively as a bargaining power. Please like, subscribe down below. I really appreciate that. And I'll catch you guys next time. Ciao.